we package a whole pile of them. Like we have 3 different pricing models that we use to establish consistency. We're looking for metrics that are consistent across. Well, how did we price? Again, marketing is a big part of it. How many showings did we get? What was the actual reach of what we did? And then the last piece, the negotiation strategy, right? Like, were we willing to draw a line and fight for every dollar for your property versus the agent that doesn't necessarily care. They don't care about their own commission, let alone your price. That just tells you it's the best offer you're going to get. Welcome to the Prime People Podcast, where we cover all things that got us to where we are today, our team building strategies, the marketing and sales tips that we've learned through thousands of transactions, productivity tips, ways to really just hold yourself accountable to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and all things content creation, personal development, and not to mention we have some of the best guests on the planet.
Just did my second video shoot of the day.
Yeah.
Got together earlier this morning. I'm firefighting now. Once you go past 11 o'clock, it's firefighting mode. So
a dude at your level though, I mean, you're always looking to be the number one guy, right? Like in your organization, I'm assuming you lead quite by example.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. The way our organization works is, for the most part, so the way I built it is I'm the main agent. And then when I do like a listing or something, I have a partner agent that comes with me and they get paid a percentage. And they basically help me run the deal. They'll organize all the stagers and the inspectors and things like that, painters. I'm at every listing presentation. I'm on all the agent to agent negotiation, agent to buyer negotiation, and all the communication with the seller. And then the 4 of us, if it's a husband and wife, and I and my lead agent, we're on a text group. And so we're always in communication. So I know what's going on in all the deals and they can call me anytime. So
that's fascinating. I mean, we've done something similar internally that we were working through more and more every single day. And I love that. It is something that's attainable, right? And do you find that having that leverage of having the extra set of hands enables you to do the negotiations better or handle like the main deal point items that actually puts more dollars on the table?
I can't see. I mean, the thing is, I come from a philosophy. Every client needs to feel like they're our only client. They need to feel like they're the number one client and their deal is the most important deal. If they don't feel like that, we've done something wrong. So part of being able to feel like that is getting instantaneous communication, or answers pretty quickly, right? And never being left in the dark and always feeling like they have access to me. And to me, if we are not able to do that, then we've failed at some level. Now, the true overarching reason why people are going to use me on the list side is because I'm just going to point blank get them more money than anybody. Mm-hmm. And they will put up with a little bit as long as I deliver that. On the buy side, it's the same thing. As long as I can get them a house that they can't get with anybody else, or they get it with Andy at a price they couldn't get it from anybody else, they're going to put up with a little bit in order to work with me. But in general, we treat everybody like their only client. That's what our goal is. And every day we try to improve 1% at every single thing we do in every aspect of the business.
That's a pretty lofty goal. I mean, just coming from being inside the business, it can seem unattainable to newer agents looking at what you've accomplished. What do you think the major factors are that put you in the position that you're in today as you were growing your organization? Like, what were the main things that you did that got you there?
Like there's so much. And so we could just jump in and dive in on, you heard me say this yesterday, I think, I don't like it when people ask me, what's the one thing? What's the magic bullet? What's the one book? There isn't one thing. You guys, there's thousands and thousands of things. I have an amazing team. I've been doing this 20 years, right? Out the gate, when I started, I went to, at the time it was Mike Ferry event, Matthew Ferry, his son was speaking. And I was like all in, hook, line, and sinker. And I was like, I want to sign up for coaching. Matthew, I want you to be my coach. And he was like, well, I don't know if it's going to be me. We'll match you with somebody in the organization. I was like, no, that's fine. I don't need it then. And he's like, well, okay, well, let me see what we can do. And he came back the next day and he said, well, it'll either me, my dad, Mike, or my brother, Tom. So I got Tom Ferry as my coach. And that's been like probably a major game changer in my career, because out the gate I had Tom, and it's just because he was able to introduce me to so many people. One of the reasons why I'm so easy to, get to or help people is because, man, mega agents helped me. I was brand new. I didn't know anything. I don't even have my license for the first couple of weeks. Yeah. And a guy named Les Full out of Hayward, he let me go door knocking with him multiple times. He taught me door knocking. Joe DeRafael, who was like the number one or is the number one agent out in Nevada in Las Vegas, he spent an hour with me on the phone just teaching me for sale by owners once he was driving somewhere. I remember there were just so many people that Tom introduced me to. And so I kind of just pay it forward now, right? I'm out there to help as many people as I can. And you know this, like that abundance mindset, just out there helping, it comes back 15 fold. And that's not why we do it, but it happens. It's kind of cool that like stuff like that works. So out the gate, my business model was 3-2-1, 3 hours of prospecting every day, set 2 appointments, go on 1 appointment. And it was all by phone. It was all cold calling on the phone. And so that is kind of one of the foundation points, I think, in my career where I'm at now. The reason why it's so important to do cold calling is because, one, it teaches you scripts and dialogues. It teaches you to think really fast on your feet, and it teaches you to follow a plan. It teaches you to be, you have to be like really disciplined to wake up early, you know, do a role play with somebody on the East Coast, hit the phones at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and go for 3 hours or until you get 300 contacts. That's it takes a lot to do that, right? And there's so many benefits from that. I was in a room earlier today on Clubhouse, and they were asking me about, you know, what are the formal education things that you did to get you where you are? Yeah. And I said, you know, me, I probably started in high school doing speech and debate, right? My varsity sport was, I was a speech and debate guy. And every single weekend, my outfit was my suit, and I would go and compete. And that's all I do now. I just do speech and debate round after speech and debate round. Every listening appointment is just a speech and debate round. That's all it is. And then, you know, the other pieces of formal education that we talked about are, you know, when you write a paper in college, you know, you write your points, and then you within the same paper will write the rebuttal points, and then you'll write your responses to those. That's basically what a listing presentation is. I know the objections before the sellers are going to have them. I know their concerns before they have them, and I already know the responses, right? And then I was talking about Pele, the soccer player. Pele, the soccer player, was a great athlete, but what really made him amazing was he had genius level IQ, like Einstein. He was not 1 to 2 or 3 passes ahead of everybody. He was 8 passes, 8 moves in front of everybody, so he could see it all coming together on the field way before everybody. So he's like a master chess player on the field. And that, to a large extent, is what I do in our business, whether it's in a listing appointment, whether it's thinking about marketing. I mean, you saw my funny Instagram post today. I mean, I've been thinking about that thing forever, right? But that's I deliver, awesome. Right? So yeah. That's the kind of stuff you got to be ahead on everything that you do in this business. So the first pillar, again, was, you know, getting around a great coach, putting together a really good early business plan, working on the skills and the mindset and doing that. And then, you know, I've always been surrounded by great people, right? My mom and my dad have always helped me, you know, my sister, yeah. You know, I've just been around just like really good, successful stuff. And I've always been feeding my brain. Like when I was in college. So another thing actually before all this too was vector marketing and Cutco cutlery. I sold those knives, but it wasn't the selling and that. What it was, again, was it was a system where you learn a script, you follow a routine, and you do it, and it creates a discipline. But the major thing I took away from them is the introduction to success literature. Okay, I had never read Think and Grow Rich. I had never read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I had never read any of those. Like The Wealthy Barber was the first book, and just like, wow, like there's a whole world out there. And so that carried through into college. Looking back, I was kind of a weirdo because I would watch Jim Rohn tapes on my VCR in my college room and like fall asleep watching How to Have Your Best Year Ever, you know, and I could hear it. Dude, I remember my sophomore year at spring break, I went to St. Louis to a Jim Rohn event to watch him speak. And I'm like, looking back, it was just what I wanted to do. But now I'm like, why didn't I go to like, you know, Cancun? Why didn't I go to like, you know, Orlando? But that's what I was doing. You know, and so I've been reading success books, you know, for a long, long time. And it's gonna, through osmosis, just filter into your brain, right? And so I have that foundation as you go into real estate, and then you connect with, you know, great mentors in our business, you know, Gino Bafari, JT, and Talk. Not only these are guys at Intero that were at, you know, Intero where I was growing up, and even my first manager guy named Mike James. All these guys are great guys that kind of help mentor you and help you learn about the business and do the business the right way. I was lucky because, so I've been in the business 20 years and the business has changed a lot. But back then it was a different old school kind of way of doing it. So much relationship based, so much, you know, you help me, I help you kind of thing. And it was more like, it was a much more like, I don't know, community, I would say. And then it evolves. And I remember like the first time I wrote an offer on a guy's place, And my offer ended up being, it was like 3.5 or even 4 or 5% higher than the sale price they got, because he either double ended it or kicked it to an agent where he got a kickback on it. That like blew my mind. I was like, what in the hell? People do that in this business? And when that happened to me, it changed. It didn't turn me 180 degrees, but man, it changed the way I look at this business. Because after that, I was like, well, I guess I don't need other people to sell houses. I can do it on my own. And so not that I don't have partnerships and stuff like that, but it really like changed the way I look at this business. Because up until then, I thought we were, we're all, on the same team. Everybody's doing it. We're all doing it. And I was like, what? How did that happen? Like, he screwed his client, he screwed me. Like, what? How did that happen? And so that was a turning point. Another big turning point for me was when a gal named Jan DeCarly, who was at my Coldwell Banker office, and she was a super pillar in the real estate community. She owned a bank, she built houses, but she asked me and 3 other agents to be part of a new construction development. She built 5 houses, all $3 million. And this was like in 2004, right? Or 2005.
Yeah.
And this actually does influence how I build my team moving forward, because you don't even hear about what she did for us. She cut us in 1/5 each on the listing side commission for all 5 listings. So she basically handed each one of us a $3 million listing. But in return, we had to do 20 open houses for her a month. And these weren't like 1 to 4 p.m. open houses. These were like 10 a.m. to like 8 p.m., all day, 24/7, and we were putting tons of signs out and we had flags up. And so the reason why I say it influenced me a lot in how I do my business is because all of my partnerships with agents, when we do a deal, they typically will get a percentage of the deal. And like my very first real partner I had in this business, I say that because my mom technically was my first partner in the business, but after about 4 or 5 years, I actually left Coldwell Banker to go on my own at Intero, partly because I was tired of everyone saying, oh, you're Makiko's son, you're Makiko's son. I wanted to be my own.
Yeah.
So I went over there, and my first real partner is a guy named Justin Caro, who's really smart, really good realtor. Honestly, too smart for his own good. And he was a friend of a friend, and the friend of a friend said, hey, you mind looking out for this guy or answer his questions? I said, sure. So I met with him, we answered some questions, and then I didn't hear from him for maybe a couple of weeks or a month. And then he came back, he's like, I've been going on these listing appointments, but I'm not getting them. Will you go with me? And can we split it 50-50? I was like, yeah, that's fine. We went, we got it, split it 50-50. We went, we got another one, split it 50-50. And he's like, wow, this is working. He's like, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing, and anyway, in the end, I gave him 15% of everything I made, and he gave me 50% of everything he made. And it was just this awesome partnership. So kind of from Jan, but also one of the philosophies I have with team members is you must be able to make more money together than you do separately. If you ever get to the point where one guy could make more money on his own than he can with you, then there's going to be a breakdown in the partnership. You have to be able to make more money together than you would separately. And you have to do it at every level, whether it's a new agent, a seasoned agent, it doesn't matter what. If it's not a win-win, it's going to break down. And I've been around enough partnerships to know that. So unless it's your mom. So I'm sure my mom helped me a lot more than I helped her in the beginning. So, those are some of the stuff, you've heard a lot of my Andyisms, be super thankful this business is hard because without it, you wouldn't have a job, right? Mm-hmm. It's job security. It's hard to put deals together. It's hard to get clients. That's good because it's job security. If it was simple, somebody would commoditize it and it would just go for the lowest, lowest, price basically as a commodity.
Well, let's pause there for a second. Because I think consumers do think everybody's the same. Like all agents are the same. It doesn't matter who you list with. They do think that we're a commodity that you can take, Andy or Justin out of the picture, put Uncle Jimmy in, and you're getting the same thing. Can you extrapolate that a little bit?
So I will tell you that you can only run on smoke and mirrors so long. If you really aren't selling houses for more money than other people, if you're not actually negotiating better sale prices, if you're not actually getting buyers houses that they can't get on their own or for better prices than they could on their own, or by going direct to listing agents, you will not be successful in this business, period, because you can't fake it for too long. On the flip side, though, when you actually do negotiate monster prices that those people can't get on their own, the sellers can't get on their own, nor can they get them from less experienced, and I'm just going to say it, discount broker, then you make a fortune, because the world, like the law of attraction, like everybody comes to the people that make them the most money, right? That's just what happens in this business. So for all the agents out there, you need to know your numbers. You need to know your, not just list price to sale price ratio, because anybody can list low and sell for a big number. You need to know your average sale price to the average sale price of other agents. You need to know your failure rate, right? I know my failure rate is between 10 and 15% of all the listings I take. 10 to 15% of them don't sell. The average in the industry is 20, sometimes 25%.
Wow.
Right? And so you need to know that. And just through the law of numbers, law of averages, you'll become successful if your numbers are better than the averages. That's just how numbers work, right? You can't hide behind it. I don't know if I answered the question, but
you definitely did. Actually, it's my favorite thing about you. Before I got to know you on the level that I know you now, again, I would just get so complicated with some of my analysis, and more than anybody, you've done a better job of making me self-reflective, of looking at the basics and being a black belt at those basics. And what you just said is very true. What somebody listed a house for and sold it for means nothing. I recently had this conversation with a client of mine. There were 2 sales on their street, and then his that is coming up. And he looked at the one, and it was listed for, let's call it 1.2 million, sold for 1.205. And there was another one that listed for 1.4, sold for 1.275. You would think, well, the one sold $5,000 over asking price, that's a better sale. Almost identical houses. And actually the one sold for $70,000 more. They priced ahead of the market, knowing that they'd have to negotiate down to that price. The other one priced low and ended up not getting multiple offers until like the very last second. So they only sold $5,000 above. But that 1.205 house should have sold for 1.250. Meanwhile, the other one sold almost identical to it for 1.275, right? So just interesting for you to extrapolate the numbers and what matters. And the failure rate, super important. I think that's one metric a lot of real estate agents don't look at. And then the other thing you noted is something I use very frequently, where I'll pull up 4 sales in a catchment area if I am in competition and say, well, this is our average price per square foot. This is how much higher we sell than anything else had been sold in that area previously. Like, that's not magic. There's a reason why it happened that way. So I think that's a great way of breaking it down. And
let me just, I want to caution you on 2 things. Be very careful when you only focus on list price to sale price, whether they listed high, they got the better result. They listed low, they got the better result, because you start to discount all the marketing, all the packaging that you do, and all the negotiation that you do. Mm-hmm. It's only one small variable, because the negotiation piece is the big piece. I can list a house for any price and I can get a great result because I'm a great negotiator. And what that means, as a negotiation, is very complex. At its core, it has to be a win-win, but also there have to be really thought out strategies on how to get the end result that you want based on whatever price you go out at. So just because somebody prices it one way doesn't mean they know the strategy and negotiation to same result. And the other thing that you said is the square footage game. You have to, like, I work in a marketplace where the square footage game doesn't work very well because every house is a different size. And so of course, smaller homes are going to sell for a higher dollar per square foot, and bigger homes are going to sell for a much lower dollar per square foot. And I lost a listing one time because this one guy was like, no, look at all of Andy's listings. Mine always sell for higher dollar per square foot. And I told that I tried to win, but I know he won because of that. But it's ridiculous because he's selling, $2 and $3 million houses. I'm selling $4 and $5 million houses, right? My dollars are higher, right? So you gotta, even I can lose on some of that stuff. So,
to jump back into that, the way, and again, I'd love your thoughts on this. That's one variable we look at, but we package a whole pile of them. Like, we have 3 different pricing models that we use to establish consistency. We're looking for metrics that are consistent across. Well, how did we price? Again, marketing is a big part of it. How many showings did we get? What was the actual reach of what we did? And then the last piece, the negotiation strategy, right? Like, were we willing to draw a line and fight for every dollar for your property versus the agent that doesn't necessarily care? They don't care about their own commission, let alone your price. That just tells you it's the best offer you're going to get. On that last piece, on the negotiation piece, like, from a negotiation strategy, what are some, again, very complex, but what would you boil it down to from a simple perspective if you were to tell people what you think they're doing wrong when it comes to negotiation?
That's a really good question. What do I think other people are doing wrong? I mean, the truth is they don't have the experience, because I negotiate 5 or 10 of these a week. So I already know what everybody else is going to do before they know it. I know how agents and I know how their clients are going to react to a counteroffer when I write it. I know how they're going to react to what I say, even before they are going to react, because they don't know what's about to happen to them, right? And so it's an experience thing. I think a lot of people operate from a place of fear and scarcity, right, in general, and they have to, because if you're inexperienced, if you list a house for $1 million and you get one all cash offer at $1.5 million, really, you're going to tell your client to counter that when the client was happy at $1.2 million, right? That's a damn scary proposition. And if you lose that deal, you really look bad. Mm-hmm. So most agents are scared to counter that, right? And so you need to be the expert in the room to know, no, you got to counter that because of these comps, or this is going on. Or, you know what? Do whatever you can to keep it, because, oh my God, they're overpaying by a ridiculous amount, right? But it comes from experience, But I will tell you that I think the one place where people lose the most is on fear and scarcity, and you see it everywhere.
So do you coach your clients or people you're working with to understand that when you sign the paper, be prepared to walk away? Because there's always going to be another house. But what you said is so true. People have a sunk cost fallacy. Oh, I put so much time into this deal, I got to get it done, versus you being able to be impartial.
Yes, 100%. And I think if you can coach your clients on that abundance mentality, we can find another buyer, we can find another house. It empowers everybody and it makes everybody feel good, because what you're doing is you're like, where clients get upset is when they feel powerless. They feel like they did everything right to win and they still lost. Mm-hmm. But if you can keep them feeling empowered, like, no, we did everything we wanted and we lost because we wanted to lose, right? Or that happened because we knew the strategy and that was the risk, but we were okay with it up front. You change the way the clients will think, and you're more likely, to keep them as clients and become successful with whatever outcome you're trying to achieve for them, whether it's sell a house or buy a house.
I had a recent situation. Have you ever had a one with a client where you were in it, you give them the advice, you say, hey, I think this is a great offer, but if you're prepared to walk away over this $40K sign back, understand they may be gone and buy something else. It happens. And they seem to have selective memory about that conversation.
Yeah, always, man. You try to put as much of that in writing as possible on text message. You really try to drive that home, and everybody has selective memory. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been on listing appointments and then I come back and they're like, wait, you said you pay for this and this, and you said it was going to be this. I was like, no, you talked to somebody else. I know who you talked to because only that guy offers that, right? And by the way, I sell for 4% more than him and he's offering 2% less. You're going to net more with me, right? So yeah, it happens all the time. I think part of it's human nature. I try to put as much of that in writing up front. And that's actually one thing that I think I want to do more of, is have net sheets, at listing presentations, or at least emailed after the presentation or something like that, because it does come up, right? And you don't want to call anybody a liar, because it doesn't matter if they're wrong. If they believe they're right, they're right. You know what I mean? And you have to, make them happy. Now, we get the other flip side too. I think you were privy to that conversation. I mean, I had a client that was just completely unreasonable. He literally, in text, I have it in writing, said, look, you're right. I'm just being greedy. You've done nothing wrong. In fact, you did a great job. I just want a $6,000 credit. And it basically, if you don't do that, I'm going to go online and tell everybody you are a bad agent. So it's straight blackmail, right? Yeah. And in the end, I called a lot of people and they're like, yeah, sue him. I mean, you've got it in writing. And I was like, what's it going to do to sue him, right? I can make more money in the short time, in the time that it would take to sue him. And my reputation gets, all messed up, even though it's not true. The mistake was working with him to begin with. Right. Mm-hmm. But, my bad, right? I should have not. But in the end, it is what it is. It's okay. We do it. We move on. Right.
Yeah, you have a great disposition about this business too, because it's not easy. It is hard, and I'm happy that it's hard, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do, or not even feel the sense of accomplishment, not necessarily from the dollar figures or the volume, but just truly helping people. I think people have a misconception sometimes when people are in production or they're building something of significance, that it is all about a dollar. But you've done a lot of charitable giving. I watched what you guys did with CASA. It's funny because I go screen free on Sundays completely, but I did whatever I could on the background to support and send people there. And it was such a cool thing to see. I know Eureka, you were part of it. So many of the other members that were donating their time. I do want you to speak to that. Like, how is charitable contribution important to you over and beyond just creating a business like you have?
Yeah, I mean, one of my affirmations that I say every morning is, I find ways to help those less fortunate than me every single day, right? And for me, I got to a point in this business where, look, we do a lot of good, but really at the end of the day, we're making a lot of money for a lot of people that are pretty well off already.
Hmm.
And I was like, if I die tomorrow and I was the number one agent in Saratoga or number one agent in Silicon Valley or number one agent in the world, does it really matter?
Hmm.
If I helped one more kid get to high school and graduate that wasn't going to graduate, or got to college that wasn't going to go to college, or became a really impactful, productive person in society, giving back and raising, kids in a very positive environment that wasn't going to, I think I'll have done more good than I will have made more rich people even richer. Right. And there's nothing wrong with making rich people richer, but I'm just saying, just from like, I think I'll get more people at my funeral if I help a lot of people in Casa than I would selling houses. That's all I'm going to say, And so, Casa is an organization that is phenomenal. It's court appointed special advocates. Basically, you become a volunteer and you're appointed by the dependency court. So you actually go through training. You have to get, approved by the court system. There are kids whose parents are no longer able to care for them because they are in drug use or some other, like maybe they're in jail, or the kids are by definition victims of abuse or neglect, or very high risk of abuse or neglect. And they're not with their biological parents. They're often with a foster care family, or they're with another family member. Now, the goal is to reunite them with their biological parents, if at all possible. And what CASAs do is we become a constant adult in their life that they can see at least once a week, and you spend a few hours with them every week. And we observe, what are they going through? How are they developing? We work in conjunction with the social worker, lawyers, teachers, and to make sure they're in a good, happy, safe environment where they're growing and they're flourishing. And if there are things that are not being met, we try to step in and try to help some of that. And then we're an advocate for them at the court when there are court hearings and follow-up hearings of what's going on in the child's life. Is it a good environment? What are some things that they may need and things like that? If the kids are old enough, we can advocate on their behalf for whatever their voice is and what they want. But if they're too young, then we have to come up with, our own recommendations and what we think. And the courts will use those as they make decisions to, the betterment of the welfare of the kids. So it's an amazing organization. It's nationwide and everybody should support it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Everybody go check them out. They are legit. We'll put the links in the actual show notes as well too. Your interactions with them, like, going into a client's house that you've never met before and establishing a rapport relationship with them. I'm sure these kids even give you more of the gear sometimes. Like, you show up in your polished suit. What could this guy teach me or tell me, right? What's that like?
I'm a suit, I'm definitely showing up to go play at the park or ride bikes or something like that. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning, they're like, who is this guy? Especially when it's a 6 or a 7-year-old. They're like, who is this guy? What? And like a lot of the people I work with, they're Spanish speaking. So when I say casa, they're like, house. What's house have to do with anything? And then there's like a double meaning because I sell houses.
You sell houses. Yeah, I was gonna say it's super confusing.
Really confusing, but they figure it out pretty quick. And especially kids, they read intention and they read where you're at so fast because it's so intuitive. And as long as you're coming from a good place and just want to have fun and help, they get it, right? And the families that they're with also see that also, right? I think they're also a little skeptical, like, why is this person here? Why does the court appoint this person to be hanging out with the kids? It's kind of a weird thing, right? But I think when you come from a place of wanting to help and just help the family and help the kids and just make a better environment for everybody, I think that it's well received and I think you get better outcomes. So
dude, that's like a 360 watching your whole story in this discussion, talking about your proximity to people that really showed you what was possible. I was a weirdo when I was coming up in high school and everything else too. Like I can definitely associate with the things that I thought were super fun and interesting weren't necessarily what the world thought were super fun and interesting. Those people give you a leg up. I can only imagine those kids being in proximity to you, down the road when they start digging into maybe who you are and what you're doing, what you've accomplished, the butterfly effect that may have into their lives and the people they touch, I think
that's what I'm hoping for.
Legit, right? That's what it is. And that's why I brought it up, because you could sell all the houses in the world, but what you said, like, the money's going to be there, right? It's great to have success, but what they're going to impact in their lives because of your relationship with them is going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree 100%. I mean, I feel like I'll leave a bigger legacy if I can impact people. So.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. I'm going to give you a couple more questions here. We're going to get you out of here because I know you're on the road, probably closing deals.
Yeah.
So one question that I had for you in terms of leadership and building an organization, are you good? Do you have a couple seconds here?
Good now, because I pushed it back to noon my time. So I got 25 minutes.
Okay.
I'm actually having my mom. So as soon as my mom pulls up, I'm going to have lunch with my mom. And, that was another conscious thing. I was like,
yeah,
I spend more time with my mom. So every Thursday at lunch is lunch with my mom. It's hard in the schedule, right? So, I just wasn't spending enough time with my mom. So I need to do that. So
that's epic. And yeah, you're on Pacific time. I always forget that because of the 3-hour difference that we have.
Yeah.
Talking about building your organization, right? Finding good people and building culture. How do you do that? How do you build culture? How do you retain talent? What are the leadership qualities that help?
That's a great question. So I think you and I resonate well with each other because I think we're cut from the same cloth and we both know it. Here's the truth of the matter, whether you like it or not. Like attracts like. It's that simple. When you are a good, hardworking person, you only attract really good, hardworking, smart people. That's how it works. Okay. And I've been very blessed to surround myself with really smart, really hardworking people in this business. And I've never even I've put out like a couple of ads for a couple of people. Almost everybody on my team has just come to me. They just show up. They're like, we want to work. That's it. Like literally that's what happened. Oh, did I lose you?
Yeah, I lost you for a quick second there. You're back. I'm laughing because it's literally the same thing with us. Like we don't recruit, we turn people away that come to us sometimes just saying, no, sorry, we're not hiring.
I've had people on the team, they all work themselves away from our team. Like I don't fire anybody with very small exception. I've had to ask a couple people go, everybody else just leaves. They just leave because it's too uncomfortable. It's like, we're all round pegs and they're a square peg. And, we work unreasonable hours and we go way above and beyond. And if you're not cut like that with us, you won't survive, right? Our bar is too high, but it works. Like everybody on my team is making tons of money. Like they're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Last year I had a gal make like $1.3 million. I had 2 people over $1 million, a bunch of people in the 800,000-900,000. Got one kid that, joined me 3 years ago. He's making over $500,000 a year now.
That's crazy.
Right?
When you think about it, right? Yeah, it is true. Like proximity, again, it either drives people forward or back, and not everybody needs or wants the same thing. I'm watching you talk. You like the game. Those people probably like the game. You enjoy what you do, which is why it doesn't really feel like work when you're doing it.
Yeah, it's not hard work. It is hard work, but it's not like tiresome. It's not like mind numbing or anything like that. It is fun. I mean, we could talk a little bit more on building a team because I know maybe somebody listening to this, they want more. I always say have a 2-week probation period, have a 2-month probation period, because you do make mistakes, and fire fast or disassociate quickly. We're always generous when we disassociate. We always give them like a month of severance, or whatever. Just because, hey, it was a mistake on our part. We made a mistake and we both made a mistake. It just wasn't a good fit. Right. So we try to take responsibility for that and it just goes over really well. I'll work with anybody. I've literally never really turned anybody away that I didn't, what I didn't think was coming from a good place. Right. So, maybe people will watch this, they're all going to want to join my team, but if you want to join my team, you just got to be really smart and really hardworking. And that's just kind of it. So
I laugh because I was with a guy yesterday, Victor Addis, the condo king in my market. He came to me. He was selling bikes for Louis Garneau, super smart guy, covered all of Ontario. My interview with him was about 30 seconds because of the conversation that we had. I don't even think I read his resume. I was like, yeah, just show up. We'll see. Like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not going to put, too much emotion into it one way or the other, but I think that's a great way to go about thinking about it.
Everybody on my team is very ethical and honest.
Yeah.
That actually is another piece of the puzzle. Not that you need to be religious or anything like that, but I got like my director of operations, Lisa, this is a great story. like 7 years ago or so, I'm just going to give you the long story because we got time. I went to called Bellarmine Jesuit school, all boys. One of my best friends there is a guy named Eric Kabarian. We grow up. He ends up being an elder at a church, Presbyterian Church of Los Gatos. He calls me up one day and says, hey, there's this new guy that we're interviewing to be the pastor. his name is Dave. He may want to buy a house. Can you show him his houses? So I said, okay, sure. So I showed Dave some houses. His wife is Lisa. This is like 8 or 9 years ago. I meet them. He ends up getting the job. I end up helping him find a house. Lisa is wicked smart. And I'm like, you know what, Lisa, one day I think you're going to work with me. And they're like, ha, 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 right? Like fast forward, whatever it was, 5 years or 7 years later, Dave calls me up on the phone. And he goes, you know, I was wondering, do you have some like side work that Lisa could do? And I was just like, I was like, yeah, sure. Why don't you have her come in? We'll let her be a TC, we'll give her $300 a file. And, let's just see how it works. And then anyway, long story short, she's amazing. She runs my entire operation. She runs everything. She does just this phenomenal job. She's worth her weight in gold. And, but she's the wife of a Presbyterian minister. I got a bunch of, people on my team. Morgan, my assistant, she's an amazing person, and she's very religious Christian, stuff too. And it's just anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
No, dude, again, we've never talked about this. Surprising given we've spent hundreds of hours together, but intelligence, integrity, and energy. I tell people, what do you look for? And that's it. Like intelligence, integrity, and energy. If I can find those three things, I can make you successful within the organization that we're building. But one specific question I want to ask, how do you communicate with your team members? How often do you talk to them? I know it's probably organic, but I just love to know how you operate.
WhatsApp and phone calls, text messages, WhatsApp, phone calls. That's it. Like we're constantly communicating. We do have, especially when COVID started, we used to meet like once a week, every Tuesday for an hour. We're at the title company's office. We had their bigger office. It was right next to a Pete's Coffee. And I would buy food for everybody and we'd have a fun meeting and go over deals. Back in the day, we would have a phone call every morning for like 10, 15 minutes, go through every deal. But now we've got like 60 escrows at any given time. We can't go through every deal. Like we do that. And then we got busy and we're like, okay, well, you call in at 10 and you call in at 10:15 and you call in at 10:30. So we can kind of stagger it. Like that got broken. And then, so then when COVID started, we were all lonely. So we started doing, Zoom calls every day. We were doing Zoom calls every day for like 30 minutes to an hour. And then we went to 3 days a week. And we still do that because our offices still aren't open. But so we just do that 3 days a week. It's a quick meeting, 15, 30 minutes. We talk real estate or bring in a lender, or we have our title gal talk about what's going on. But for the most part, we use WhatsApp for everything. We have each of our deals as a title of a WhatsApp group, and then the necessary members in there. And then we're just
including clients as well. I'm just curious how you guys operate. Yeah.
Clients on the other side. So address, sellers, address, team. And that's how we do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We started using WhatsApp as well too for the majority of our deal files once we're live, because it keeps the communication there and you can actually scroll it, be part of it, jump in when you actually need to, or when it's time to do the final negotiation, right?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have heard me say this before because I think people laugh. They think I'm joking when I don't have a CRM. I don't use stuff like that. I mean, we just tried follow-up bounce for the last like 2 weeks and or even a month or so. And we gave up because it was just too hard. Like we're so fast, like it just slows us down. So we use Excel spreadsheets, right? Excel spreadsheets are way faster than everything. So that's how we do a deal stuff. And that's how we do a lot of our client stuff. And then we just use our iPhones for other stuff. So, because we have no time, we can't waste time with how we run deals or how we communicate. So if something slows us down, we just can't use it. So.
No, that's great. And again, just doing something on a regular basis makes you fast at it, right? The scripting, the role playing, negotiating, like you're in it, you're an operator. I always find it fascinating. I know some people in this business, they want to get out of production. I totally understand why some people have different aspirations. When we were talking earlier about not everybody's cut out to do the same thing, things that get me and you excited are terrify other people. But yep. I do find it fascinating sometimes, especially if I was an agent and I was in my team, if I had a leader that didn't necessarily want to be out there getting better, it almost feels like there's a bit of an expiration date to the skill set that I'm going to that leader for, right?
100%. You've got to lead by example. I learned that from Gino Blafari, who started Intero, and then, it was purchased by Berkshire Hathaway. And now he runs all home services for Berkshire Hathaway. You got to lead by example. That's just the way it has to be. Mm-hmm. And not willing to do it, it's not going to work. So
when a guy like Gino go into that role that he's in now, running Berkshire Hathaway, that's such a different beast of an organization, but that now probably fills his cup. And, the organization that he's running, the people look to him for that same leadership in that space, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I know when he just had Intero, he, rode the managers really hard, and it was all about recruiting and profitability. And I know he's just taken that to the next level at the presidents of all the companies that he's in charge of. It's all about, you know, recruiting, and it's about bottom line profit, and using the auxiliary services like the lending and the title and the escrow stuff. And it's all about profit and what you got to do. Right. And it's like, I mean, there's other stuff that he's taught me, like, you have to have a goal, you have to write it down, and then you have to like keep track of it, and then you have to report it. Right. So those are the 4 steps. Each one of those steps increases your success rate on what you do. So first you got to have a goal that will already increase your success rate. Write it down, will increase. Right. Have it be accountable with people, will increase, and then actually report it back, will increase. So those are just steps, right? And so that's what he does with everybody. I know he does that with his leadership staff, and that's why they kill it. You should get him. I'll get you him on here if you want.
That'd be unreal. Yeah, I'd love to interview him and just pick his brain too. I've watched him from afar, never actually been directly connected to him, but I would definitely appreciate that.
Sure.
Going on that topic, what's Andy's moonshot? Like what's that thing that you're striving for? Because you have a clarity of purpose. I hear it when you speak. I see it in your actions, and actions indicate intent. What is Andy's moonshot or long goal, I guess?
Not that big. It's pretty small. I really just want to be like a 2nd grade school teacher and coach, kids sports. I want a house in Hawaii. I'm working on that right now. I want, enough passive income to have a very comfortable life, for my kids and stuff like that, and me. And, it's not that I'm retiring anytime soon, but I don't need to run a giant organization. I don't need that. I don't need to be a big brokerage. I don't need $1 billion. I just don't. I want to be able to travel, right? I want to learn languages and spend time in those countries. Like, I want to live in foreign countries, right? I want to have different types of experiences, and I don't want to do it when I'm old, right? I want to do it when I can still climb mountains, so that it's just more like lifestyle. I mean, I want to, when my kids grow up, I want to be able to spend time with each of the kids of their houses and their kids and coach the grandkids sports. I think it would be super fun. I'd be really happy. And I like 2nd grade because the kids they're all potty trained and they don't lie yet. And, I think and there's not a lot of homework, so I wouldn't have to grade all of it. But yeah, I mean, it's coming soon, right? Like, it'll happen soon. I that's the kind of stuff I want to do. I don't need to make lots of money. I don't need to run big organizations. I just, I like having fun and helping, people and kids are always near and dear to my heart because I feel like they're the one demographic of the world that never had a chance, right? If you're an older elderly person, not that we shouldn't take care of all the elderly people, but you grew up, right? You had a chance to take care of yourself and put yourself in a position where, you'd be in a good spot, and we can debate that, whatever. But it's not that I'm saying we shouldn't help the elderly. We should.
Yeah, for sure.
Kids, they're born somewhere where they didn't have a choice, and they are not in a position to help themselves. And so I love spending my time with that. I am a Kiwanis Club member, and that's like, kids first kind of thing. And we do a lot with high school turnaround scholarships and that kind of stuff too. But yeah, I mean, kids are where my passion are at. And so, and I want to do it on a small level where like I can really impact people. That's why I say like, just want a classroom of 2nd graders, maybe in Hawaii, maybe somewhere, East San Jose or something like that, where I can bring an impact and make, change the lives gradually, like 1%, right? Baby steps. Every year, 30 kids, right? And just put it out there. And I think to me, that would be good enough.
And you can do that in perpetuity. Like you're training for it right now. I'm listening to you speak, and it makes perfect sense. I'm again, this is why we align so well. I don't care about being the guy that sells all of the houses to the number 1 broker at the number 1 brokerage in the world. I like doing good quality work and being able to leave relationships better off than they were before they met me. And you're extrapolating that to the next generation, right? So I love that you're building an organization. You have that intent. I love that you have that clarity of where you want to be and that next phase or that next step. The way that those interweave, it's probably going to be a day-to-day thing. So just want to leave you off by saying, I definitely appreciate you. You've impacted me. You've challenged me on certain things in a really positive way and made me be more self-reflective in terms of how I go about doing the work that I do, what matters, what doesn't matter. And even this episode, what you just said about kids and that next generation in the future, if nothing but you leaving an impact on me to leave an impact on others. And in this evergreen episode, I think that message is probably the best one I've heard on Prime People so far. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this today, my man.
I've learned so much from you too. And it's just so fun that this crazy app has put these people together that are so like-minded, and we're like family. And it's been awesome. It's been amazing. And also obviously, because I think you are the driver that got me to 1,000 Instagram posts.
Well, the audience here doesn't know. Okay, so first off, let me just explain to you. A lot of you have heard about Clubhouse. You have no idea what it is. A lot of you think it's just the same people saying the same things every single day. Guys like Andy and myself have spent literally probably hundreds of hours up to this point in the field working, talking negotiation strategies, listings, what's going right, what's going wrong, what's happening in the market. I mean, we could do an hour episode just on the value of Clubhouse, but Andy has done what he's done without any real digital presence from the Instagram standpoint, said he would post something when he got to 1,000 followers. It happened today. So this couldn't be at a better time. So you want to give a little bit more context to that?
That was it. I mean, you know, I didn't really have an Instagram. And then it was a joke because everybody wanted me to post on there because we'd always be in those rooms and people are like, well, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? And I was like, you guys, you don't need social media to build a big real estate business. I have a huge real estate business. I've never done a single piece of social media. And so then it was a joke. And like, they're like, basically people were like, well, I'll follow you. And I was like, well, okay, look, if I get 1,000 followers, I will post something. And then in the rooms, like different agents kept saying, like Matt or Candace, they kept saying, well, your first post should be a picture of me. Your first post should be and so I was like, okay, well, what can I do with that? What can I do with that? So I talked to my marketing guy. I was like, can you just get every one of those 1,000 people and just put them up in like a movie thing? And so we started playing with that. And then he found this cool mosaic thing. And then we had to do a bunch of customization and other stuff. We had to put like 3 or 4 apps together to make it. But you guys can go see it. It's on the my Instagram. It's Andy TSE 720. And it's just a thank you basically to everybody, and everybody's faces are on there because that's who got it there. So that's all.
That's awesome. It's a wicked little family of people. I love what it's done for just my world, and I'm sure we'll meet in person one day.
Yeah.
Where can I tell people to go see you if they're going to connect with you, or if they want to message you and thank you for all the knowledge you dropped on this episode?
I mean, I can give my phone number too, 408-807-8808. You know, you text me. Yeah, just go on there. I think Instagram's a nice place because it's kind of all this social media stuff packaged in one spot. So
and you can DM him there as well. And that's a great sign off because a lot of his competition probably says, you're never going to get Andy. He's so busy. Just hire me. You'll be my only client. But he's the least busy person you've ever met. Just like me. You can always get him by phone. That's super, super impressive, brother. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin.
Okay. Say hi to your mom for me. Tell her I'll meet her one day too.
Yep.
All right. See you, bud. Bye.
Bye-bye.